So, I think it's safe to say that K-pop Demon Hunters was a smashing success. When your two fictional bands are fighting for first place on the charts above real ones, your musical has clearly done something great. Which raises the question, what's next for K-pop Demon Hunters? How are Sony and Netflix planning to follow this up? Everyone's theorizing, so I want to throw my hat into the ring. Let's look at the possibilities, their likelihoods, and maybe even theorize some plot lines that could show up in the next few projects. Starting with something that you should always consider.
Your song that will create the golden Honmoon.
Yes, Celine.
Now, despite the fact that we seem to be living in an era of milking any and everything that seems like it could be even slightly successful, there's always the possibility that this movie remains a one and done. It tells a complete story with meaningful themes, and it might be safer to go out on a high note than risk diluting the franchise with a poor entry. Yeah, I know that's a hilarious idea, but it is worth contemplating. Last thing we need is a sequel that fumbles so hard it retroactively makes the first movie worse. But that's how losers think, and this is a franchise that actually has given itself an opening for future ideas. It could stay a one and done, but if we were one to succumb to the fear of a lack of success, it wouldn't have even happened in the first place. So let's move on to other possibilities.
You know, I feel like we got a nice little break.
Yeah, I definitely feel recharged.
Me too.
The most likely thing that's coming next, a sequel. But about what? This franchise really has two options, roomy or not roomy. You see, Rumi is the undeniable main character of the first movie, but that kind of leaves Mira and Zoe to have less focus. Now, if you've seen my analysis of the themes of this movie, you could probably guess that I don't really think it's that big of a problem, but I won't deny that getting more of the other girls would be a plus. Now, there is one flaw with this. This franchise is about fighting demons, and Rumi is the only one whose character is really deeply tied into that. As a half demon, if we're getting more information on demonology, she's kind of an absolute must. Which is why it's more likely that any potential sequel will have her also in the main role. But I'm nothing if not willing to be creative, and I can think of a way a sequel can have both demons and another girl as the main character. Specifically, Mira. We know that Gwi-Ma makes deals with desperate people to make them into demons. Going off of Jinu, he makes people do something that they'll feel guilty for and uses that guilt to drag them to his level. My idea is simple. Make Mira part of one of those backstories. We know she's the black sheep of her family, which seems to be pretty successful in its own right. So, what if that success is a result of a deal? What if the strained relationship she has with her family is a result of one or both of her parents making a deal with Gwi-Ma? We can learn more about how demons operate while seeing more of Mira's backstory and character. I think this can work because the biggest obstacle to continuing this series is the Honmoon, which is implied to have been completed by the end of the first movie. Not strongly, they could always say that since it's a new Honmoon, it's not strong enough to be permanent yet, but narratively, it does feel like a strong implication. And this can play into the first movie's themes while explaining how demons are still a problem. Like I said in my analysis, a big thing about the conflict is that before Rumi and Jinu, the Hunters didn't know anything about how demons work. The connection between shame and enslavement, between life and death, those were things they never factored into their methods and plans. So if Gwi-Ma is making deals with people, even while supposedly cut off, there could still be pockets of influence in the human world he could try to use to break the Honmoon. Or they could independently look into freeing him because they want to maintain their deals because they don't want to go back to wherever they started off, and that could be a real challenge for the girls to get through. It would be thematically resonant with the fact that simply completing the Honmoon doesn't actually remove shame. So the idea is that Mira's wealthy family is being haunted by a shame that's influencing them to undermine the Huntrix. It kind of writes itself. And they wouldn't even be the only ones motivated to do something like that. Just the main ones we focus on. Of course, this is assuming we get a sequel. It could be...
Every generation, a new trio of hunters is chosen to fulfill our ultimate duty.
While a sequel is probably the most obvious direction, a prequel is the one I've been seeing people hope for the most. They want to see the story of Rumi's parents and how that happened. Now, here's the thing. This movie would be very risky. People love the characters we've been introduced to. The characters we saw in the first movie, even the ones who weren't characters. Creating a prequel where the only characters that would be present are Gwi-Ma and Celine, and that we go into knowing it ends with Rumi's mom dying, is risky. A lot of what a possible prequel could tell us can simply be told via flashbacks in a sequel where Rumi also has to explore her parents, possibly contrasting Mira's relationship with her parents. Also, a note about Rumi's dad. I kind of don't want him to be evil. You know, the idea that he gets in a relationship with Rumi's mom just for nefarious purposes, I feel would be way too repetitive with what they've already done with Jinu. Any further lore we get on how everything works could also be worked into a sequel. Frankly, a prequel probably isn't happening. And of course, there's still Zoe, who could get a storyline. She's from America, and they could work that into looking at Huntrix on a more international level. There's just so much to work with, which is why one thing that's as likely as a sequel is...
I'm taking these down, just like how we're gonna take down these boys.
Now, this isn't DreamWorks, where you can reliably expect them to make a TV show out of their movies. But this is Netflix, where you can reliably expect them to make high-budget TV shows, and then cancel them if they aren't immediately successful. But that's highly unlikely with this franchise. The thing about series is that they need more content than movies, and if they try to make a movie-sized idea into a TV show, we could get some atrocious pacing. But K-pop definitely has enough content to constitute at least 8 30-minute episodes. Frankly, I think the biggest challenge in writing this would be the antagonists. Here's the thing. The Hunters are way too powerful compared to the demons, and that was before the Honmoon boost that may or may not be permanent and Rumi gained control of her demon powers. Any fight between the Hunters and the demons we've seen so far wouldn't last a minute. The entire plot of this movie is the demons going, hey, we keep losing fights, so let's mess with the fans. And if this is going to be a continuing franchise, that's kind of what the villains have to do. Mess with the Demon Hunters on a K-pop level. And you know what that means.
My little soda pop.
Ah, the Saja Boys. I'ma be real, I don't think they're coming back. Well, most of them. Let's extract ourselves from the fanon theorizing and fanfiction and really look at them. These aren't characters. They have amusing traits you can extrapolate some character from. I'm gonna do just that in the shorts after I'm done with this video. But these boys are really just handsome faces to back Jinu up. I think the only time Jinu ever holds any conversation with any of them is when Abby's commenting on the fact that the girls are always staring at him. When he needs to actually bounce off of someone, he does it with a real character, like Gwi-Ma. I don't think anything short of the most insane, determined push by fans is bringing these guys back. And besides lust, the girls did not care for them at all. Truly, the only thing that can save the Saja Boys is how much people really love the band. I think if we're getting new K-pop challengers, they'll have to be new characters. And they can just make the new challengers hot instead. Oh, who knows, maybe we'll get some demon girls. Now, Jinu, on the other hand, is a character. If they're gonna go to the effort of bringing Jinu back as something besides an antagonist, they're gonna have to give him a new narrative role, and I don't think Rumi's boyfriend really cuts it. And I think there's a really solid idea for what could be done with him, and his quote-unquote death is what puts him in that position. This whole first movie is based on Jinu's plan. This means that he's largely responsible for the many people who go missing through it. It's kind of glossed over, but I'm the kind of guy who that sticks with. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad we had a villain who did bad and selfish things. A redemption doesn't mean anything if the person wasn't bad, so pointing out all of the terrible things they've done doesn't really make the idea impossible. Wait, how'd that get there? But dying to redeem yourself is easy. Undoing your mistakes and making up with the people you've harmed is hard. Jinu got a lot of people swallowed up by Gwi-Ma, but their bodies disappeared too, not just their souls, which means they could technically still be alive. And if we interpret what happened to Gino as him also getting swallowed up, then you could have them all winding up in the same place within the Demon Lord. From there, the now more selfless Gino has an obvious job: bring back everyone he got killed. How could he do this? Who knows? Maybe the humans are in stasis and he has to work alone while trying to give hope to the other demons Gwi-Ma consumed. Maybe they're awake and he has to somehow win their trust so they can work together to get out. I know the popular thing is to write him into being inside Rumi's sword, but that could just be the explanation for how he could save his victims. His soul has a connection to the real world through Rumi, and by working with her, they could save everyone. If Gino's coming back, that's how I want to see it happening. So, these are my ideas for a K-pop Demon Hunters series. Mira's family becoming antagonists, more explanation of Rumi's parents and the Huntr lore, maybe getting to see her reconcile with Celine, diving into Zoe for a less demon-based exploration of cross-culture music, Gino's atonement, more bands, the works. We could get more of the girls trying to do their thing from within the K-pop industry, with demons using social conventions to undermine them. Maybe a rival K-pop group who has nothing to do with demons but are still a thorn in Huntrix's side. It was kind of funny to see Huntrix's immediate reaction to the Saja Boys being, let's go kill this rival band, but seeing them try to handle a rival band that they can't just turn into dust would be pretty funny, I think. And of course, Gino shouldn't be unique. Are there other demons who can be made to embrace their shame? There are so many possibilities, and really, a series could explore a lot more than a sequel. And of course, Bobby. We need more Bobby. Shout out to my patrons, A and Skyman. What do you think? Tell me where you think this franchise could go from here down in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you, and good day.